Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Courtroom Insider. I'm Nate Eaton. Thank you for being here tonight. It is September 29th, 2025, and we have had a busy news weekend, a busy news month, you could say. There is a lot to talk about, a lot to get caught up on tonight, and we're going to tackle it all. Would love to know where you're watching from and if you have any questions. Tyler Robinson was back in court today. He's the man accused of shooting and killing at Charlie Kirk. We'll talk about that. We will also talk about the very latest on the shooting at a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints building in Michigan, including some interview with a person who goes to the church there, and also a man who had an encounter with the shooter just days ago, and he said it was terrifying. We will talk about that. And then the latest on Travis Decker. This is the father. We talked about this a little bit last week. We've been talking about it actually for a few weeks now, a few months. This is the man accused of killing his 3 daughters, and his remains were found last week. Well, someone we haven't heard from is the coroner who examined those remains. He's going to be here to talk about what they discovered. How did Travis Decker die? Will we ever know? We'll bring that up with the coroner who I chatted with earlier today. Before we get to that, let's talk about this guy, Tyler Robinson. This is the suspect who is accused of shooting and killing Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University earlier this month. He had one court appearance a few weeks ago where he didn't have an attorney, and now he does have an attorney, and his attorney was with him, but he was not in court today. He appeared via video from the jail, but his legal team was there. The prosecution and their legal team was there. His attorney is a very experienced woman who has represented other high-profile cases, including the Ruby Franke case, and now she is representing Tyler Robinson. And they talked about how there is a lot of evidence that will be presented at this trial. The biggest takeaway for me, honestly, was the fact that they intend to have a preliminary hearing. Now, what does this mean? It means that when you are charged with a felony, in Idaho, this is what it means, and I believe it's very similar in Utah. When you're charged with a felony, you have X amount of days, I think it's 21 days, to go before a judge, and the prosecution has to hold a preliminary hearing where they present just enough evidence to show that they actually have a case, that this person committed the crime, and then the judge rules if there is enough to advance the case to an actual jury trial. A lot of times, defendants waive this preliminary hearing. They just don't want to do it. They want to get ready for trial, and so they move forward, especially when there's a lot of evidence and in high-profile cases. Lori Vallow waived her preliminary hearing in Idaho. Chad Daybell did have his. It was a 2-day hearing in August. They called up witnesses. The defense doesn't have to present anything. They can cross-examine the witnesses, but they don't have to present any evidence. They don't have to present any witnesses. And this is what will be happening in the Tyler Robinson case. His attorney said that today. Here's a little bit of what the prosecution said.
The state is required to provide to the defense within 5 days of the defense's request the discovery that we relied on in making this charging decision. We'll be prepared to do that, so we'll look for defense counsel's request or the next day or so, and we'll provide that to the defense.
Thank you.
We also, for the court's information, we met this morning with the defense team briefly in our office to talk about discovery and the process. So we'll be working together. There is a substantial amount of discovery in this case, Your Honor. It's voluminous, to say the least, and we're working on a process where we can exchange information as quickly as possible and be efficient in that process. The other item I had, Your Honor, I saw that over the weekend, there was a protection order, pretrial and trial publicity order entered by Your Honor. And I just was seeking some clarification on page 2, at the end of the first paragraph. It reads, "To that end, lawyers participating in the investigation or litigation of this case shall inform all witnesses, investigators, consultants, staff members, or other members of the prosecution or defense teams that the prohibitions contained in this order." The state were seeking some clarification with respect to the phrase "all witnesses," Your Honor. There are a number of witnesses that have yet to be identified that will likely be used in the state's case. This occurred in front of 2,000 to 3,000 students at Utah Valley University. So we're in the process of identifying those witnesses. And so those individuals are presently unknown right now. So we're looking for a little clarification from the court. And I suppose we're not going to make any arguments today, but there may be some follow-up pleadings that we may need to file.
Thank you. Ms. Nestor, did you want to be heard about that issue?
No, Your Honor, we would defer to whatever the court wants to advise them on that matter. I mean, I think it's fairly obvious that we don't know who all the witnesses are in this case yet. I think it's just important that if anyone is identified, that they have information about this order. So I think other than that, we wouldn't weigh in on any other matter.
Thank you. Well, thank you for that question. That's an important one. The court will rule that as the witnesses become known to each side, that information is conveyed to abide by this order. Obviously, there are potentially many witnesses, and so it's not the expectation that you would be able to do that up front, but as they become known, I would ask that you would inform them of this.
So they were, of course, talking about witnesses, that the witnesses they intend to call can't be going around telling everybody, talking with other witnesses, things like that, especially when it's so high profile. Then the defense was able to say a few words, and here is what his attorney said.
So we are here today for a waiver hearing. It is not our intent to waive a preliminary hearing in this matter. We are going to be seeking that one be set. However, based largely on what the state just referred to as far as the voluminous nature of the discovery materials, we do think it would be prudent to simply reset for another conference, another waiver hearing, a little bit down the road, where we have a better idea once we start seeing the discovery as it rolls in. I do recognize we're going to be getting that first batch in 5 days, but it's my understanding from our meeting today that there is massive amounts of digital that is going to be coming. And until we can kind of get our heads around exactly what we're dealing with and how much we need to process, it's going to be difficult for us to give you a reasonable expectation of when we will be ready to do the prelims. So we're asking today that we put that decision off, and maybe we could check in 30 to 60 days and just kind of let the court know where we're at and how much we're looking at and how much time we may need to set a preliminary hearing.
Now, the judge did set the next hearing for October 30th at 10 a.m., and he mentioned that Tyler Robinson will appear in person. He intends to have them there in the courtroom. This, of course, will elevate security. Anytime there's a high-profile client, security will be elevated. There may be a lot of people that want to go down and actually see him and be in the courtroom. But we will see. We will see what that brings. The judge, it was interesting, Judge Graff, I think, did a good job laying out his expectations from both sides going forward. You might remember on the Koberger case, Judge Hippler, the first hearing he had with both sides, he laid out the line, like, this is how I run my courtroom, this is how it's going to be. That's kind of what Judge Graff did. He's only been on the bench 56 days. 56 days, can you imagine that? And now he has the highest profile case in the country, maybe in the world. Anyway, here's a little bit of what Judge Graff told both the defense and the prosecution.
As we are at the beginning of this case, it is my intent to only speak when I'm needed or it is necessary. But today I do wish to provide guidance and expectations that you can have for this court and wish to enter an order as well. As this case moves forward, Mr. Robinson's constitutional rights will be protected at every stage. He sits before this court presumed innocent, and that presumption remains unless and until each element of every offense charged against him is proved beyond a reasonable doubt. At the same time, and as applicable, victims are entitled under our Constitution to be treated with fairness, respect, and dignity, free from harassment or abuse. Justice demands that both of these principles, the rights of the accused and the rights of victims, be honored without compromise. I remain steadfast in my oath that I made 56 days ago to support and defend the constitutions of the United States and of Utah. I will carry out my duties with fidelity, transparency, and impartiality, treating every person who appears before me with the dignity and respect they are inherently due because they are human beings. Let me be clear. I will not put my finger on the scale of justice. These proceedings will be open to the public, conducted in accordance with the law, and handled with diligence and competence to ensure that justice is never compromised. It is the standing order of this court that Mr. Robinson shall be allowed to appear in person so he can fully engage with his attorneys and participate in these legal proceedings. Counsel, regardless of who is watching, whether it is the nation or a single individual, we must fulfill our roles with integrity, civility, and diligence. I encourage each of you to give your very best to this case. Neither Mr. Robinson nor the people of Utah deserve anything less than the fair and impartial administration of justice.
So now we again await that next court appearance. It's going to be October 30th at 10 a.m. We will live stream that, and we will bring you the latest as this case continues to develop and move forward. There'll likely be court filings in the next few weeks and months. I guess actually the 30th is a month away, so the next few weeks, and then we will see what happens with that case. Now let's go to Michigan, where this is a look at the LDS Church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints building. That was the scene of a horror show yesterday on a Sunday when so many people went to worship, and a gunman crashed his truck through the building and ended up killing 4 people and injuring 8 others. Those are the latest numbers from the police department, from the officials. The 5 dead total, including the gunman. His name is Thomas Jacob Sanford, 40 years old. And according to the authorities, how these church meetings work is there's a sacrament meeting, which is a meeting for everybody. Church is 2 hours long. It's the same all over the world. And it usually will begin with a sacrament meeting where everybody is all together. Kids, adults, everyone has one meeting for everyone. Everybody's welcome to attend. After that 1 hour meeting, the kids split up and go into primary. The young women go to their classes. The young men go to their classes. Sunday school, the adults go to theirs. So you're split up. But this apparently happened during a sacrament meeting, and it was a fast and testimony meeting, which means many members of the church were fasting for spiritual growth and bearing testimony, which is where it's kind of an open mic meeting where people can go up to the pulpit. They can say their thoughts, their feelings, their beliefs, whatever they want, really. They bear testimony, and then they sit down. And this is what one of the members of the church there in Michigan said he experienced. This is an interview with WTOL.
So the second counselor of the bishopric, he just ended announcements and then started in on his testimony, and that's when we hear a loud boom, and the back wall of the chapel just buckles inwards. Everything shook. Some people get up in panic and start heading for the parking lot, and then some of us decided to go check on it because we thought it was just somebody who ran off the road and hit the building. Several people automatically thought they were in danger, but some of us didn't, and that's when I went out into the park, or went out to the front of the building. And that's when I saw the shooter start aiming at people and starting to shoot. That's when I turned around and started running for the door. I felt some shrapnel hit my left leg, and then as I'm running to the door, bullet grazed or went past me, hit the door on the left side of me about a foot away. I'm panicking and trying to get through the doors as fast as possible, and just expecting a bullet in my back. I was just waiting for it.
What were you thinking as you were trying to get away from that as fast as possible?
Just that. I'm thinking I'm a goner. I'm going to get hit, because he's shooting at me. He missed every time. Later on, I found some shrapnel in my right foot. I think it was a piece of metal. It went through my shoe and found blood on my sock. I had EMTs check it out, and they don't think it's in there anymore, but it's sore.
Did you get a good look at the shooter?
It's all kind of a haze, and I just remember brown. I remember seeing a rifle, and then didn't look too much else, but I just turned and ran.
After the shooting, the church caught on fire. This is an aerial view of what is left. Let me take it in full. You can see it. It is just a shell, just so stunning to look at. The Governor Whitmer was at a news conference today, along with ATF, the FBI, the sheriff, the police chief. They spoke about the medical chief of staff there from the hospital. He said that victims between 6 years old and 78 years old were taken to the hospital. Just such a horrible, horrible show. And I have covered, sadly, I have covered other shootings at churches and synagogues and mosques, threats of shootings and actual shootings. This one, though, is just, it is, I think, extra painful for many members of the faith because hours before this horror show happened, the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints died, Russell M. Nelson. He was 101. So it was kind of expected. He's an elderly man who had done a lot to transform the church over his presidency. He had passed away, and so many people were at church thinking of him, getting ready, for a new president to be announced, reflecting on his life when this happens and this shooting occurs. I want to play there was a news conference today. I want to play some sound bites from there. But before I do that, there was a man who's running for city council who had a run-in with the suspect, Thomas Jacob Sanford, who, by the way, has been arrested in the past on burglary and driving without insurance, I believe. Just somewhat minor charges. Nothing like this, obviously. But he does have a past. There's a city councilman who told a local podcaster about his run-in just a few days ago with Sanford. Here is part of that interview.
Last week, it was Wednesday or Thursday, I'm running for city council and I'm canvassing, and I had an address on my map that I went to, and I came across a gentleman. He was very friendly, and he had interacted positively with me, and we got out of the vehicle. We started just to talk, and after a short while, the conversation went to the Church of Latter-day Saints, Mormonism, and he just made the position multiple times that Mormons are the Antichrist. And he, in not so many terms, said that several times. He gave me his background, but I just walked away from a person who had some very sharp views about Mormons.
This is the truck that the gunman used to drive into the building. And one of the images, he was a soldier. He served in the military. One of the images on his license plate, it says Iraq. The White House press secretary, Chelan was on Fox News this morning. She said that this is a person who had a hatred for Mormons, which is a term that is commonly associated with church members. The church discourages that term. Members would rather be called Latter-day Saints, and that's what the church encourages people to use. Mormon is a very common term, and that is the term that she used. And so, but other than that, other than the motive, they're still trying to figure this out. And who knows if they'll ever be able to figure it out 100%. I want to go to some sound bites now from the press conference from today. Governor Whitmer was there, and here is a little bit of what she said.
I know that this community is reeling right now, and I want you to know that the state of Michigan has your back. Your grief is our grief. I ordered flags lowered statewide, and I spoke with President Trump yesterday, who wanted to share his condolences. We will be here every step of the way and coordinate a full response with our local and federal partners. Folks here at the township at every level have been working closely together. If there's one thing I know about Michiganders, is that we get through hard things together. And that's who we are. That's how the good people here at the Grand Blanc Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints live their lives. They worship together, they sing together, and they serve together.
After Governor Whitmer spoke, the head of the ATF national response team took to the podium. He encouraged people to stay away from the church and stay away from the area. In fact, the area, I believe, is cordoned off. And he spoke a little bit about IEDs that were found, improvised explosive devices that can set off explosions, and the fire angle of this whole situation. Here's what he said.
This community is hurting, and we are here to help them heal. As part of that healing process, ATF has brought in their national response team. This is a cadre of world-renowned investigators for arson and explosive incidents. They have been used all over the world, and they come from places as far as California, Hawaii, and they're here in Michigan now. They arrived last night. They've briefed. They're examining the scene, and that is what they're doing at this point. From ATF's perspective, I would encourage the community not to travel by the church. Those roads have been blocked off and access is controlled. While that might be a little disheveling for folks, we need that scene security for our investigators as they dig out this scene. So with that in mind, that's our ask for the community. We are also looking at improvised explosive devices that were recovered during this investigation and looking towards that end as well.
We also heard from the FBI, who said that they have interviewed over 100 victims and witnesses. You think about a church, a lot of times these churches, there's more than one congregation meeting at a time. One might go at 9 a.m. and one might go at 10:30, and then one might go at noon and one might go at 1:30. So each congregation, if there's between 150 to 300 people there, you have two of them. That's hundreds and hundreds of people. I don't know how many were in the church at the time, but they're saying hundreds of witnesses and others have been interviewed. Here is what the FBI said.
The FBI is investigating this as an act of targeted violence, and we are continuing to work to determine a motive. In the past 24 hours, our investigative squads and specialty teams have been out all night, exhausting leads, some of which have been coming in from the public via tips. Our special agents, victim specialists, child advocate forensic interviewers, and local partners have interviewed over 100 victims and witnesses to date and are continuing to interview individuals as we speak. Our evidence response team, or ERT, which is a specialized team of special agents, intelligence analysts, and professional staff, are trained to process crime scenes and collect evidence. They were out all night and continue processing the scene as we speak. Our field office has stood up national equities for support. We are engaging with our behavioral analyst unit, or BAU, and have received support from our Quantico Labs division to analyze evidence collected to date. We received assistance from our FBI field offices across the country to support this case and file down leads.
Of course, it was the local officials who were first on scene, and here is what the sheriff said at this press conference today.
You prepare in peace to perform in chaos. I saw it live. I saw what you trained for, what you planned for, and then reality hit yesterday morning in a bright sunny day when people went to worship. But what I also saw is every level of government law enforcement work together for the good of the people. What I witnessed was people putting their lives at risk that had 2 months on the job as an EMT, or brand new firefighters, veteran firefighters, and law enforcement, just to bring a sense of stability to a scene that was chaotic and dynamic. As the sheriff of this county, I see the great people every day, but I want this community to know that those ranks in those agencies that were mentioned before me, we worked together, we worked in concert, and we did the job. And there's more to do. I will tell you, the sheriff's office dedicated every county sheriff medic that we had available, patrol, investigators, we did interviews, emergency management, whatever the task was needed. The sheriff's office worked with everybody that you heard and many that you don't know to bring justice and also order to this scene. But I will tell you, the days are continuing. We have 31 marked cars on as we speak, making sure schools that are in session and churches that are planning Bible studies, regardless of faith-based, that they will be protected. Anybody who calls in, we will be there like other law enforcement to settle the community and bring a sense of calmness to people. There is an uncertainty, But law enforcement, especially this sheriff's office, will bring that to you.
And then the police chief also said a few words and talked about the investigation that his department is working on in conjunction with all of these other agencies. Here's the chief.
This was an evil act of violence. That's exactly what this was. And this is not Grand Blanc. This does not define Grand Blanc and who we are. We are a community, and I am confident that together we're going to build a stronger community due to this incident. Now, an update, this left 5 people dead, 8 people injured. As I said, this is an evil act and does not define Grand Blanc or who we are. At this time, what we know is everyone has been accounted for. We still are in the process of clearing out that church, but at this time, everyone is accounted for. We ask that you stay away from the scene. Let us work to clear this call so then we could get back to normal. That's what we all want. Grand Blanc Township police officers, the community of Grand Blanc Township, we're hurting. And we know that you are hurting as well with us. I want to remind you that we had the Family Assistance Center open. They will be open Monday and Tuesday at the Genesis Athletic Club from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That address is 801 Health Park Boulevard, Grand Blanc, Michigan 48439. Seek service. Let's come back together and be stronger together and better.
Now, after the law enforcement officers spoke, they left the room, and then the medical chief of staff from the local hospital took to the podium again. He said that there were victims between 6 and 78 years old being treated there. It was a mass casualty incident, and there were actual members of the church working on and saving members of the church. Here is what the doctor said.
An update on what we have had is we had a total of 8 patients at Henry Ford Genesis from the ages of 6 to 78. 5 were gunshot wounds and 3 were smoke inhalations. 2 of the smoke inhalations have been discharged. 1 is still intubated at this time. For the gunshot wounds, 1 had sustained gunshot wounds, multiple to the chest and abdomen. It's in critical condition. 1 had to the abdomen, as in critical condition still, but mostly stable. 1 of the victims did die in the emergency department. 1 child came in, was stabilized, and then transferred. And then there was another gentleman who had a gunshot on the leg. The trauma team was really well prepared for this. They activated the Mass Casualty Incident Command. Our trauma surgeon, Christopher Ash, was on the team, and John Vance, one of our other trauma surgeons, helped lead the charge. Dr. Sandy Ross was the ER attending at the time and did a phenomenal job of triaging. All of the community members came together. We hate having to prepare for these kind of events, but we are prepared, as well as the other hospitals in our community. We're very grateful to be helping to serve this community, and will continue to do for years to come. So, any questions?
What round struck the victims? You said someone shot in the chest and abdomen. Was this with rifle, 223-round handgun?
I don't have information on the caliber.
How many were under the age of 18?
I don't have that answer either.
What was the age range?
It was 6 to 78.
Of the people found in the church after it was evacuated, do you know anything about the suspected cause of death of those 2 people?
I do not, and I can't extrapolate either.
Can you tell us more about the child that you mentioned? Was that child shot, boy or girl, 6-year-old?
Had an injury to the arm, and out of an abundance of caution was transferred to another hospital.
Was the injury a gunshot wound?
I can't verify that.
Dr. Danick was one of the physicians that was treating patients yesterday. If anybody wants to ask him about his experience and just being there.
I will say it was very interesting taking care of our community members in this kind of a traumatic experience. We had a number of our residents who were members of the church and were on site. Not only were they victims, they were also first responders. And having your friends and family come in injured and taking care of them is a really incredible experience. They were heroes. Those on the scene were absolute heroes, going in and out of the fire to drag people out, helping each other take care of the victims on the scene. And the community really came together.
So from here, the investigation continues. The church headquarters has released a statement, and then just this afternoon, the Dallin H. Oaks, who is next in line to become the president. As I mentioned, the president of the church died Saturday morning, and when he died, the leadership, right now there's not a president. And so the I don't know if he would be considered the acting president, but I guess you could say the most senior leader, Dallin Oaks, issued a statement today. He said, "Our hearts are heavy with sorrow. Millions of us are mourning the passing of our beloved prophet and President Russell M. Nelson. He was a dear friend and a cherished leader. His timeless teachings continue to guide us and help us find comfort amid suffering, especially in the wake of the recent violence aimed at members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Michigan this past Sunday. This awful tragedy that took place reminds us of our sacred responsibilities as followers of Jesus Christ. We mourn with our members who have lost loved ones, and we join in prayer for comfort with others around the world who are suffering from similar tragedies. We all seek answers and understanding in the wake of trauma, shock, and grief. We are grateful to all those who are reaching out with service, prayers, and words of support during this difficult time. May we all remember the truth that each of us is a beloved child of God. Our Savior Jesus Christ, through his infinite atonement, overcame death and gives us the joyful assurance that each of us will be gloriously resurrected. On behalf of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I extend this expression to the family and friends of those affected by this recent tragedy and all others who may be experiencing loss and heartache at this time. And so the investigation continues. I know many people are wondering about the victims. As of right now, they have not officially released names of the victims. We have been informed of a few. And we're not going to repeat those here until we have them through official sources, until they're, officially released. And I have also spoken with a couple of the people who are inside the church who don't feel comfortable going on camera at this moment, and I totally understand them. It's a traumatic event, would never push them, but maybe down the line they'll want to talk. And if you're watching and you want to share your story, if that will help, feel free to reach out if you were there in the church or know of people. And just, so many people are thinking of them. And sadly, I wish that I could say this is hopefully the last time we'll have to cover something like this, but I don't know that to be true, and that's unfortunate. But that is the latest there. We'll continue to follow it. Now let's pivot over to Travis Decker. This is the man accused of killing these 3 beautiful little girls, his daughters, back in earlier this year. He, I believe it was the beginning of June when this case first became public. Their mother was concerned about Travis, and he came to pick up their daughters for a visit that was not supposed to be overnight and ended up not returning to the house with his children. They were later found dead near a campsite and have, ever since then, the search has been on for Travis Decker. Well, they found human remains last week, and they, through DNA testing, were able to confirm that they were indeed Travis Decker's. And so the case is now closed as far as, determining what exactly happened. I imagine they'll look into that a bit more. But sadly, this mother is now left without her children and without any answers because Travis Decker isn't here to talk. The sheriff held a news conference a few days ago. Here's a little bit of what Sheriff Mike Morrison said.
We're coming full circle. We look at about 4 months ago, we were just sitting here breaking the news about this tragic situation of the deaths of Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia. And today I stand before you again with news that we have received our DNA results back from the Washington State Patrol's crime lab from the items that were recovered last week. That would be the clothing and also the human remains. We are glad to say that those remains do come back as a positive match for Travis Decker. It's a big day for Chelan County Sheriff's Office, all of our federal partners, that we can finally bring a close to this dark chapter of Chelan County. Certainly pay respects to the deaths of Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia. We wanted to show honor to them, let them know that we never forgot about them. We haven't forgot about their family. To Whitney, we apologize that it's taken this long to get the closeness and the closure that we are looking for in this case, but I hope that you can rest easier at night knowing that Travis is accounted for. He is deceased. Our DNA results confirm that, and this will bring a close to our case.
And then today I was able to catch up with the coroner, Wayne Harris. He's been a coroner for 2 decades, and he, of course, has been handling this case. His office, at least, has. He's the elected coroner there in the county, and I was able to get a little bit of information about where they go from here, how they think Travis Decker died, if they know. So here is my interview with Mr. Harris. All right, so Wayne, a lot of people have obviously been interested in the Travis Decker case, and there was some news last week. Can you just kind of get us up to speed, first of all, on the recovery efforts for finding his remains?
Yes, the Sheriff's Department in continued search for his remains with the assistance of the U.S. Marshals and the FBI were able to locate some clothing and some bones. And then the team, it was a rugged and very difficult area to get to. So the search and rescue team went in there and recovered about a dozen bones, different bones, and had them airlifted down where our office picked them up and took them over to the state anthropologist who looked at the bones and tried to determine, first of all, they did determine they were human bones. And then they tried to determine if there were any injuries, fractures, or anything on the bones that shouldn't be there, and they didn't locate any. One of his feet was taken to the Washington State Patrol Crime Lab, where the Sheriff's Department had them fast track the DNA testing, and they were able to confirm that it was, in fact, Travis Decker.
I don't want to get, too graphic here, too gruesome, but if somebody's body, and you would know being a coroner, if somebody's body is out in the harsh, outside in the environment for 3 months, wouldn't there be more than bones, or is it possible to just disintegrate down to bones?
Well, based on where he was found and where he was allegedly went up to, he's in an area where there are a lot of bears and cougars. And so we believe that the animal activity probably reduced everything down to the bones.
I see. Okay.
And that's why they were scattered around, and they were located in 5 different locations. The bones that we found, or they found, were in about 5 different locations, several hundred feet apart. And so the majority of the remains have not been found yet or been located. And that's most likely due to animal activity moving them around.
Do you believe that he may have been the victim of an animal attack for his cause of death, or any idea at this point?
Yeah, there's just no way of knowing. There's so many scenarios that could have taken place, so many different causes of death that could have taken place. But without more of his remains, the torso or the cranium, and being able to have the forensic anthropologist examine those, there's just no way of knowing.
Will you walk us through, Mr. Harris, a little bit about what is involved from your perspective as a coroner in these types of investigations? When you find human remains or you find a body after someone who's been missing, what steps are taken?
So in most states, probably all states, the human remains, whether they be a body or skeletal remains, whether it's the entire skeleton or a fragment of the skeletal remains, is the jurisdiction of the county coroner or the medical examiner, if that's the system that the state uses. Whoever finds the remains, generally a hiker, may contact the law enforcement, and then they will recover the remains, transfer them over to our department, and then we will either, if it's a full body and not a skeletal remains, we're able to do an autopsy. We've got biological material and organs that a pathologist can autopsy. But in a case where it's just a skeletal remains, there's nothing to autopsy. That's where the forensic anthropologist comes in. And they examine all of the skeletal remains and look for any marks or injuries or defects or abnormalities on the skeletal, the bones, and then they can determine if there's any injury that might have been caused by somebody else or from a fall.
And go ahead.
I was going to say the cranium is a good indicator. If somebody fell and they hit their head, their cranium might have fractures in it. Obviously, if someone took their own life with a handgun, there would be an indication of a bullet hole and specific details on that bullet hole that will indicate it was a bullet.
And has Mr. Decker's cranium been found?
It has not.
It has not. Okay.
Yes.
Are you the one then that would actually perform an autopsy if there was enough there to do it, or does that get sent like to a lab?
Yeah, that would go to a forensic pathologist, which I'm not.
I see.
Yeah.
So what got you interested in this type of work?
Well, I was in the funeral business for 25 years. After finishing school at the University of Utah, I went to mortuary school and had a desire to do that for years. And when I graduated mortuary school, and during mortuary school, I worked at several funeral homes, actually one during mortuary school, but prior to that, I served apprenticeships in a couple different funeral homes. So I was licensed and worked in the funeral industry for close to 20 years. And then I was part-time chief deputy coroner for about a weekend a month for a few years. And when the coroner resigned to move to Olympia to live with her husband, live with him as he took a job at the state health department in Olympia, she was a forensic pathologist, so she would come over and do autopsies for us. And I put my name in the application pool, and I was appointed by the Republican committee, and then the county commissioners appointed me, and I've run unopposed ever since.
Okay, so
20 years.
20 years. What a run. Is this one of those positions that in Idaho, at least, anyone can run for coroner? You don't really have to have much of a background. I think you do a class or something. Is that how it is in your state too?
Yes, that's how it is. I always tell people you have to be electable. And so when I ran, fortunately, my background in the funeral industry and my background in biology, and and being the deputy coroner, that helped me get elected. But yes, there are standards that each state has where you have to take training and you have to become certified as a medical legal death investigator. And then in addition to that, you have to continue with continuing education credits. So you learn new techniques and learn new things. So yeah, and they're really good about making sure people are up to date on their continuing education.
So will you explain to the viewers what is the difference between a coroner and a medical examiner?
Yes, a lot of it has to do with the state, how the system is set up. And for example, in Washington State, the medical examiner, there are, I think, 6 or 7 counties where there's a medical examiner, and that would be in counties over 250,000 people. And a medical examiner has to be a forensic pathologist. And the medical examiner runs the office or the department. And a lot of times, at least in King County, the medical examiner is overseen by the county health department. And then the medical examiner, the chief medical examiner who runs the office, has several, 4, 5, 6, or 7, however big the department is, forensic pathologists that do the autopsies. Mm. And then in our state, there's coroner counties, which are, I believe, 100,000 and less, 150,000 and less in population, where we are elected, and most of the time, none of us are forensic pathologists. Like I say, you just have to be electable and get some training.
Yeah.
I think we were the last county when our prior pathologist and prior coroner resigned. I believe she was probably the last coroner in the state that was a forensic pathologist. So we were lucky to have it set up that way. But now, there's such a shortage on forensic pathologists now that they're not coroners anymore. They're too busy working for larger medical examiner facilities.
Right. Yeah, that a lot of states are seeing that where they just can't get it. Were you the one who went and retrieved the bodies of Mr. Decker's daughters?
No, that was my coworker, Earl Crow.
How do you all handle situations like that? They're just so heartbreaking and traumatic.
Well, both of us have been doing it for many years, so I think we learn how to handle it and compartmentalize, and we learn how to not let it affect us. We both have different activities outside of work that we can relieve our stress and try not to take work home with us. Yeah. That's the big thing. And when you meet with families, we're sympathetic and empathetic, and we hurt for them, but we just can't carry that home with us.
Right. Although sometimes when you are at home, I imagine you get the phone call in the middle of the night that you need to go collect a body.
Yes, that's one of the downsides of our job is we're on call every other week. So we're in the office all day, and then we're on call every other week at night. So we can have some all-nighters.
Right. What do you think we'll ever know the exact cause of death for Travis Decker?
I think in short of not finding his torso or his cranium, I don't believe we'll ever know the answer.
Okay.
And clearly the sheriff's department is not going to continue searching for the remains. It's just not a good use of resources. But I think that potentially sometime in the future, years down the road, maybe someone might be hiking up there or mountain climbing and find a cranium, and they will call the authorities, and then the authorities will recover that and turn it over to our office. And if we don't know who it is, then we can do DNA on the cranium and get a match and hopefully come up with some more answers.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you chatting with me. Is there anything that you want to add?
No, I think the county, their community's been really paying attention to this story, the tragic death of the girls, and concern for the mother, who probably had to worry about Travis still being around. And I think that locating him and doing a positive DNA identification on Travis will allow the community and hopefully the family to heal.
My thanks again to Mr. Harris for talking with me. Could you imagine being a coroner? That'd be such a fascinating, interesting, morbid kind of job. I don't know if I could do it, but there's a lot of men and women that do it, and it's just interesting to see what they do. I need to go out and do it. We do a series on East Idaho News called Workin' It, where we go out and do different jobs every week. Our team rotates jobs. In fact, we just posted mine today. I went and worked potato harvest here in East Idaho. It's harvest time. So that potato that you had for dinner tonight likely came from here in East Idaho. And we went out last week and worked potato harvest, and I got to see how they actually go literally that potato in the ground to the truck, to the cellar where they store them, and then where they go from there. And it's interesting. So anyway, I guess I should do a work in it with a coroner. So thank you, Mr. Harris. And thank you all for watching. We also have to thank newspapers.com. They sponsor Courtroom Insider. They've been a great partner to work with. I asked you to send me your stories about interesting things you found on newspapers.com. Here's one I got. I used newspapers.com to start looking into my family history, and within 15 minutes of looking, I solved a 3-generation mystery and traced our family trauma all the way back to the Civil War. Crazy. We had always known my great-grandfather, when he was 50, abandoned his family of 10 kids in the Dust Bowl on the eve of the Great Depression, but not why he left. I found the articles on newspapers.com about how his father, at the same age, also with 10 kids, brutally murdered their mother in front of them. So my great-grandfather was traumatized, and I speculate he was afraid he'd become like his murderer father. Then I investigated the murderer and found out he was a good Quaker boy who had lied about his age to join the Union Army at 16 and was part of Sherman's March to the Sea. So I'm guessing that the murder was related to PTSD. That's Catherine from New York. Crazy. Crazy. Anyway, you can find out your family history. I hope you don't have those skeletons in the closet, but if you do, email me. Would love to hear about them. Newspapers.com. Go try your 7-day trial. Learn about what's in the news. Learn about everything that's out there. It's just an incredible website. And so thank you to newspapers.com. Thank you, Catherine, for sharing that with me. Here's where you can find me. Look, I'm on the big screen behind me. I'm on Facebook, Nate Eaton Reporter. That's honestly where I post the most, several times a day. Different stories that I see, family stuff. X, Nate News Now. I need to do better at that. N.Eaton at Instagram. And, of course, East Idaho News YouTube. Please subscribe if you haven't. If you're watching on Meetin' the Eatons, thank you. We appreciate that. And we thank you all for watching. We have some great programming coming up this week. Hope you'll stay tuned for Courtroom Insider. We'll have more as we get to it. And thank you for watching tonight. I'm Nate Eaton. Have a good night.